Hello, I'm Liz.
And I'm Jamie.
Welcome to Follow the Boat, in which we discuss what it's really like to give it all up to live on a boat.
And go travelling around the world. We've been doing it since 2006 and we're still at it.
Each week we talk about our latest YouTube video.
And about boats, sailing, travel or anything else which floats into our heads.
And if you leave a comment we like, we'll give you an answer and a name check. Peace and fair winds. Right, we ready?
Yep.
Well, how should we start? Listening to you glug tea.
Yes, coffee.
Nice. So here we are, we're back.
Woohoo! I'm so excited about this.
Are you really?
Yeah, I love these podcasts.
Yeah, I know.
I do enjoy doing them. It gives us a chance to have a dialogue with each other that we don't normally have for the rest of the week, do we?
For the rest of our lives. Mostly you're playing some bloody game on the internet and I'm watching films or YouTube shorts.
No, we're not. We're reading sailing books.
Do you know, one of the things I never do is watch sailing videos.
No, it's a bit of a busman's holiday, isn't it? Because we do get asked, you know, which are your favourite YouTube channels? And to be honest, I don't have time. I mean, what I watch on YouTube, apart from light relief comedy, are tips and tricks on cinematography, photography, lenses, cameras, that kind of thing.
Yes, I am the same. I like watching the Photoshop ones. There's some really good Photoshop tutorials. And also, now that shorts are getting bigger and bigger, I know some people don't like it, but they're here to stay. You get these really nice, very quick tips that are so easy, and I've saved loads of them and I'm going to start using them in my work.
We should quickly mention shorts, I suppose, because you know, as someone who loves photography, I detest shorts. I just can't bear video shot like this, you know, with the camera held at 90 degrees.
Yeah, for the benefit of those listening and not watching, you're talking about portrait rather than landscape.
But it's what the kids do these days.
I know, but we're not kids. By any stretch of the imagination.
But for those who watch our YouTube channel, YouTube has very kindly separated out shorts from our episodes now. I think when they first started, what would happen was we'd put up a short and everyone would get notified. And then, of course, those who like the long form video episodes would get frustrated. But they've changed that now, haven't they?
Yeah, we're getting fewer comments saying they hate shorts and they're unsubscribing. I think they are here to stay, so I think people will get used to it. And YouTube's worked it out. They're knocking off the corners, they're making it work. So I quite like shorts. It's something I can piddle around with while you do the meat and potatoes. I can just do the amuse-bouche.
You need that creative outlet, don't you? Otherwise you're just doing all the SEO, search optimization, the keywords and the tags and all that kind of stuff, which is a little bit tedious, isn't it?
I hate that. Anyway, we started before we really started, and what we were going to say was, hello, we're back. Hello, we're back.
Hello.
To camera. And we've been away a long time.
It's been a very long time.
We are recording this on the boat with traffic going past, so there will be noise. Don't know if the people are going to hear it or not.
We're going to ignore it, and we discussed this at great detail when we did our last series of podcasts. So we're going to ignore the boats going past.
Yeah.
It's a very busy sort of thoroughfare, isn't it? It's where people from the island behind us go to the mainland. So you do get a lot of traffic going forward. But anyway.
Yeah, you do. But it's part of living on a boat, isn't it?
So
people are getting the real experience with Follow the Boat.
I have to say, actually, these guys here are pretty good because we have been to places where they will come up as close as possible to the boat and slow down and look in and obviously wave as well. But, you know, you can get a bit tired of that when the 50th boat goes past in the morning. These guys are quite good. They keep themselves to themselves.
And their engines are quiet compared to what we've had.
Yeah.
God, yeah. So, yes, let me just say, today is Wednesday, the 8th of February, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the recording date, hoping to get this out tomorrow. Let's see when you hear it, whether it did come out the next day. And the last one we did was last year. We were in the Togian Islands.
Wow, that was a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago.
God, they were nice, weren't they? Did a beautiful couple of episodes on the Togians. Did some diving there, met some very nice people. And it was a most unusual place and somewhere we would, like so many places, want to go back to if we ever got the chance. So that was a long time ago, and we said at the time, we're going to take a break because we're now going to do quite a long passage. We were going to start making our way towards Lombok. And we'll probably be back in 3 weeks, we said.
Did we?
Yeah. I think that was about 9 months ago.
Oh dear, blimey.
Yeah,
And so officially this is I worked it out, I think this is our 4th series of podcasts, were we to put them into series, which we're not particularly bothered about.
we're not organised enough to know if it's going to be a series or not. We just do it on the hoof,
Yes.
don't we? Off the cuff, as they say.
Yeah.
But yes, I suppose we could call this a new series.
Because our first series, for those who are new to us, our first podcast was recorded in 2010, I think it was.
Gosh, was that in Egypt or before?
That was before Egypt.
Bloody hell. Where was it?
No, I think you're right, actually. I think it was Egypt. So, long time ago.
Because I got you that little recorder for your birthday.
That's right. Which got a lot of mileage out of
Took
that.
it all around India.
Yeah. So those podcasts were a mix of travel and sailing. These ones are a bit more us just sitting
Talking
around the
bollocks.
table of bollocks and talking bollocks.
Yeah, so our weekly vlogs on our YouTube channel, they are a record of what we see and how we sail, and tips on both, on places and sailing and so forth. Those come out regularly every Sunday. But the podcast is an opportunity to sit and chew the cud. Sometimes about what we've just posted, sometimes about what we're experiencing now, and then sometimes about, more psychological, philosophical things.
Yes, we like a bit of philosophy, don't we?
Yeah.
And of course, podcasts traditionally used to be audio only, but as we know, so many podcasts now are videoed as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that we
Yeah.
were doing with our last series, was to video them.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this, you'll notice that we actually only have one camera angle now, because to edit, I think at some points we had 4 cameras, didn't we?
Yes, and so it's becoming a bloody nightmare, because it was my original idea to go back to podcasts. You probably disagree, but that's how I remember it. And I said, let's do video podcasts, because I'm a mad, keen podcast listener. Listen to them all the time. Lots of BBC stuff, but lots of historical and scientific stuff. Love all that. And I just have my earphones in all day long listening to stuff. And I thought,
That's just to avoid talking to me, isn't it?
that's the main reason.
And it works.
But I love them, and I thought, well, we did used to do them, and we should do them again. And then I kept seeing that these particular ones that I liked, they were on YouTube as well.
And I think
So-
there is a move for people to listen to YouTube and
Yeah.
not just watch it. So people do like having the podcast on in the background while they're doing something else, as they would do a normal audio only podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
So here you have the choice. But as I say, we've now got one camera, and I've just realised previously what would happen was, because our studio, our cockpit, is so damn hot, every time I would wipe the sweat from my head, I would cut the camera to you so no one could see me doing this, he says, as he wipes his sweaty brow from the...
Yeah, you are glistening.
Oh, it's just got hot here.
Weirdly, I'm not as glistening as you.
No. Talking of heat and weather, the last 5 days has been probably the wettest we've ever been, apart from South India, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, Kerala in the monsoon was pretty bloody wet. But yes, we need to explain exactly where we are.
Okay, you do that.
Yeah.
And then I'll ramble on about
Yeah.
solar power.
Yeah, so those of you who are watching the videos, we are just about to arrive in Lombok, and we are in Lombok now. We're recording this. So, but we're on the very southwestern corner of Lombok, where there are a series of little islands. They call them Giles over here, Giles. The famous Giles are in the north of the island, but these less famous ones, which are far more beautiful and more remote and less touristy, are colloquially known as the secret Giles. And we're on an island called Gile Gede, and we are that's it. This is
If you're
Gile Gede.
watching on video, that's the thing that sort of swings around
Yeah.
behind us.
Hopefully you can see it through the shade here. Beautiful, beautiful island. Absolutely love it here. So that is where we are. So we're very, very... In fact, is this the furthest south we've ever been?
I think it might be, yeah.
I think it is. Is it further south than the very bottom of
Yep, of
Sumatra?
Sumatra, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
This is the furthest south we've ever been. Yeah, so we're still... I don't know, does this count as the equator? No. Below the equator.
It's
Tropics.
below. I mean, it's tropics,
Capricorn?
equatorial waters still, I suppose. I don't know actually what the definition,
Didn't
what
do
the
any.
cut-off is for what's equatorial and non-equatorial.
Well, I should do. I mean, I remember doing it in geography, but it just shows you how ill-prepared we are. What we need to do is get onto AI chat, but that's another story.
Yes.
Anyway, here we are, and you need to explain what's going on then. Go on.
Yeah, so in the episodes we were sailing in the southeast monsoon.
Yes.
And since we've been here, that's switched now, and we're now in the southwest. Now, all the locals would say to us, oh, it's really wet, it's really wet. And both you and I poo-pooed them and said, nah, we've seen wet. It's, you know, the tropics are wet at some point in the year. But this last week has been relentless. Not just the rain, but the wind.
Cloud cover.
There is a big cyclone. This is what happens. This is what we've learnt since we've been here, is that you get, and of course a lot of Aussies already know this, but you get fronts building up off the northwest corner of Australia.
Yeah, I blame the Australians completely for
Blame
this
them
weather.
for everything, I say. Hello to our Aussie friends, by the way. And so these fronts, they disrupt, of course, all the weather from the South Indian Ocean and obviously the Java and the Flores Sea north of us here.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they just hang there. And
Yeah.
they hang for, the last one was there, what, 10 days or something?
Yeah, we know that it stopped people that we knew from going anywhere. They were just hunkered down. We weren't moving at that stage. We were fine. We were just anchoring around the islands. But anyone who wanted to do anything major, they couldn't get out. And it didn't half rain, didn't it?
It rained and it rained.
Yeah.
And we managed to fill up our water tanks, which is a good thing. But, you know, it made me realise just how dependent we are on solar. Because we have, it's just under 1 kilowatt of total power on our solar panels, 960 watts. Of course, you never get that fully, but we have enough solar that on a normal tropical day, we're always keeping the batteries nicely topped up. Well, since we've been here, this last week, the generator has been out almost every day, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
we've got a little portable Honda generator, haven't we? Petrol generator. But the problem is that when we need that, it means there's no sun, so we need the generator. And generally when there's no sun, there's rain. And when there's rain, you can't put the generator outside.
Yeah, we stick the generator at the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we're centre cockpit. The only dry space when it's raining outside is in here. So we have to carefully position it sort of the edge of the cockpit, close up all the windows and the hatches, keep a few vents down below, because I'm so paranoid of carbon monoxide.
Oh yeah, it
poisoning.
kills you.
Sorry for interrupting, but while I've got you here, if you like what we do and you want to support us and become a Patreon, or join us on FTB Mates, or even drop a quid in the rum fund, go to followtheboat.com/pub. Of course, come to the pub.
It's a real sort of balancing act, finding a little gap where it's not raining for half an hour to get the generator on. But yeah, it just made me realise that we are fully kitted out for tropical sunny cruising.
Yeah, we are.
We don't have an installed generator, we don't have a wind generator.
That's something we've talked about, but you just don't want one, do you?
It's just, yeah, I don't. I mean, normally it's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's just been this really, really wet southwest monsoon, which the locals warned us about. So
So it swings and roundabouts. So getting the power has been a bit more challenging, but we've got it. You get your coffee every day, and we do what we want to do. It forces us sometimes not to use power and do other things. So I'm doing more little chores and things that I perhaps wouldn't normally have done. But on the plus side, as you said, we've got loads of water. So I've been doing loads of washing, all in rainwater. It's been beautiful, lovely.
now there's a question for listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
Do you drink rainwater? This came up in another podcast I was listening to recently, in which they researched it because they were talking about drinking rainwater. And one person said, oh yes, we always drink rainwater, and someone else said, no, it's not good for you. And they looked it up, and one source said rainwater isn't as fresh as you think it is, because of course there's lots of things in the atmosphere.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think that's probably, if you were in London, I'm not sure I'd drink the rainwater.
Definitely not.
But I think here it's probably a little bit cleaner.
Well, near an airport, that's the other one.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you are taking your life in your hands when you drink water that hasn't been completely fried with everything in it killed. But we do tend to quite like water that's as fresh as possible.
Well, our water is a mix of
Yeah.
rainwater water maker water, and if we duck into a marina we might top up, and of course that will be mildly chlorinated.
Yeah, I hate that. It's my least favourite.
Yeah, we filter it anyway, but so it's normally a mix of those three, but I think currently we're probably half rainwater and half water maker water.
We're probably building up a whole load of bacteria in our guts that are hopefully doing us some good, and maybe the odd parasite or two, but we'll find out.
It keeps you slim, doesn't it?
God. Yes, so there we are. So we're on Southwest Gile. Anything else you want to say about this horrid weather then? So we've got another few days of this, I think.
Yeah, so we are planning to head off soon. We're still waiting for our visas. There's a couple of jobs we still need to do. But you see, the problem with this weather is that it does kick up the seas and the winds north of us. And, well, of course, I don't have a problem with that. What I don't want to be doing is trying to coastal hop across those islands.
Yes.
Ducking out of horrendous weather. And there are very few anchorages along that northern coast with protection from the prevailing wind.
I'm going to stop you there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about where we're going to go next, and that's a secret squirrel conversation that we're going to have.
Well, you notice I didn't mention where we're going.
So, because it's still slightly up in the air.
It is.
It is, isn't it? So next week's another subject. The week after is where we're going to go next, because I'm really hoping by then we will have started on that journey. Because we've still got a couple of things we've got to do. We've got to get a new starter battery, because that keeps going wrong, and I've got to go up the mast and sort out the VHF cable for you. I've got to stick it to something.
You keep coming up with excuses to not go up. One day it's too windy, then it might rain, then it's your knee.
Yeah, knee's better, thanks.
Good. Yeah. Glad to hear it.
But yeah, well, this weather's supposed to clear by the weekend, so I was reckoning by the weekend we could do it. But if not, if it's still a bit windy here, you know, further round the corner from where we are now in Gile Gede, there was hardly any wind. Do you remember the difference between there and here? So I was thinking we could always take the boat there if necessary and go up the mast. Yeah,
these gillies in the south of Lombok are extraordinarily protected. Just the lay of the land creates these lake-like waters. And from where we're sitting out, we can actually see the huge volcano, I forget the name of it, on Bali.
Oh, yeah.
And it's massive. Yes. We can see that. But what we can't see is the open sea. Yeah. Because we're surrounded by these islands, and that makes for some very good, well, the best protection in the area. Really.
Yes, there's not much swell, really.
None at all.
No. You get a bit of fetch coming through if there's a lot of wind, but there's no swell. No. Yeah, it's nice. I could stay here for another month, but, you know, one has to think about stuff.
Does one?
I don't know.
Does one?
Maybe one doesn't.
I mean...
That's a conversation for 2 weeks' time.
OK, we'll see
right,
that discussion.
Yeah. So you're complaining about the weather. How British of you.
Of course. Well, it's a British thing, and it's a sailor thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, we are constantly looking at the weather. Today, as we speak right now, the sun is out and it's lovely. Right, did we talk about, so what I wanted to talk about, which we haven't even really done, is what we've been doing since the last podcast. So we were in the Togian Islands, which are that group of islands, what's the bay called? The Gulf of
Tomini.
Tomini Bay in Sulawesi. We loved that area. Now, we've covered all that in our weekly vlog, so people can go and have a look and see what we're talking about. But we were up there, so we'd left Bitung, done all that lovely diving in Bitung with the macro photography and everything, and we went across the north and we got to the Togian Islands, and at that stage we decided, right, now we need to start making our way to Lombok, because we've got, I can't remember how many weeks to get there to get our visas. So we were there and we loved the Togian. So after that, what did we do? What can you remember as a highlight from leaving to now?
Well, you know me, I can remember the lowlights.
I know, it's such a misery. There were lots of highlights though as well. I mean, they are all on the vlog, so I suggest people have a good look for the detail. But we came a long way.
The thing is, when you look back on a journey like that, and there was a lot of hardship, and we will talk about this in next week's episode, but when you do look back, you realise what an adventure that was. Yeah. And every stop we went to, even if it was just for an overnighter, you know, to avoid doing night passages, which, by the way, we try to avoid doing around coastal waters, because they are filled with all kinds of crap in the water, and they can be hazardous. Not to mention the FADs, the fish attraction aggregating devices.
A lot of those.
Which are quite often unlit. These are the huge, great big constructions that are floating in the water that the fishermen use to they attract fish.
Sometimes they're anchored hundreds of metres to the floor.
Now,
Extraordinary.
Someone questioned this, and we were questioning it as well. But you looked it up, and some of these are anchored in over a kilometre of water. But quite often these things are unlit. So anyway, that's why we don't do the night passages.
If we can help it in this area.
If we can help it, yes. But aside from that, every anchorage we went to was a treat.
Yeah, really.
It was a real treat. And of course, when we did go ashore, well, you'll see from the vlog episodes, I'm in love with the Indonesian people.
I love them, particularly Sulawesi. I mean, all of Indonesia's been, but Sulawesi, unreal. The welcome we got everywhere. What a lovely, lovely place. I don't want to think that we'll never go back there. I loved it so much.
We left a piece of our heart in Sulawesi, and we hope to go and retrieve it someday. We often say this about places that we visit, that we'll come back, come back. We've said that about pretty much every country we've visited.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there isn't enough time in the day to do that, but I think Sulawesi is perhaps one place we really do desperately want to go back to.
We didn't see enough of it because we had this visa thing where it's changed now in Indonesia, but you have to, every 2 months, you've got to renew your visa or get a new visa or go out and come back. It's all quite complicated. So we were kind of stuck really in having to move on. But things have changed slightly now, so it would be a lot easier to stay for a lot longer and properly do it in depth.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the problems, wasn't it? Is just knowing that we had this time constraint and not being able to explore more fully. But what we did see was just almost life-changing experiences. I think
so.
I mean, one of the most recent episodes, of course, is our wander around the town of Benteng on that island whose name we can't pronounce.
Tanau Jampia.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes, this is south of Sulawesi. And anyway, you saw us walking around and Liz was filming me taking photos. And we were only ashore for 3 or 4 hours, but it was just a magical experience interacting with these people.
What's amazing though is because you don't really look at Facebook anymore, but I do Facebook. Somebody from that town saw the video and saw my pictures I put up on Facebook, and then they saw the short I put up, and all of a sudden we've got all these people from that little island commenting. It's all in Indonesian and local languages, commenting and liking and sending us messages. Someone's lovely message on YouTube today came up from them, so I was really hoping that someone would see it, and they have.
I did see. I answered a comment on YouTube from one guy who said, "Thank you for visiting us. We love you."
Yeah.
But that's so Indonesian.
Yes, it is. They love it. They really love people coming to see them and saying hello. Particularly these places, because nobody goes there. Everybody goes to Bali, but nobody goes there. I mean, even Lombok compared to Bali is seldom visited.
That's really surprised me, actually. I mean, everyone has at least heard of Bali. I think most Australians have probably visited Bali. Many Brits have visited Bali. All the surfers go to Bali. But Lombok, which is, it's only across the water there, it kind of gets a bit left behind. And sadly, we've seen, obviously post-pandemic, a lot of the resorts have all closed down, as we've seen all over on our travels, and has happened all over the world. But so much of Lombok's west coast was geared up for tourism.
Yeah, and they were just starting. They were just starting to get toehold, get the overspill from Bali. People want to do something a little different. And they've got to build it all up again. But some of the locals, we've talked to a lot of them now, and quite a lot of them say, well, we don't really want to go like Bali. We want to have people here to visit, but we want them to respect our culture and to visit our villages and not just come and go swimming and staying in a hotel.
We should explain, of course, Bali and Lombok culturally are very different, different religions. And so they are quite distinctly different, even though they're right next door to each other. So I think you're right. I think there's a certain type of holiday maker that would much prefer Bali, and then there's the other type who I think would much prefer the more, not laid back, but quieter.
Yes,
More
slightly more
natural.
reserved,
Yeah.
slightly more. Although having said that, they still love their photos being taken and are very friendly. But we've got all that to come on the videos. I'm looking forward to showing people what we've seen here.
Yes, love it here.
Have we got a list of things you wanted to talk about? If you reach the end of your small list in your tiny brain.
How are we doing for time?
So we have been talking bullshit for 25 minutes, so we've got another 5 minutes or so.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
I have just been checking my notes. I did just want to mention 2 local people we've met since we've been talking about that.
Yeah.
The first is the lovely Johan, or Joe,
Yes.
he's not from Gile Gede, but he lives here now because he married a local Gile Gede girl,
Yeah.
and then he now has a son.
Yeah.
And he was the person we got in contact with to help with an electrical issue.
Yes.
He's only, 22, 23,
Good English.
really good English.
Self-taught.
And he's such a good electrician that the marina here, Marina del Rey, which is just behind us, employ him as their official electrician.
Yeah.
And not only that, he does work around the island, but his skill sets go beyond electricity. I mean, he's just a very knowledgeable, bright, switched on young lad. And you'll see in one of the up and coming episodes a little wander around Gile Gede.
Yeah, he
that
took us
did with
round his
him.
island. It was fascinating. And I think that's a good example of when people say, oh, but what, don't you worry about things going wrong in these remote places? Okay, I mean, Lombok perhaps isn't as remote as many of the places we've been to, but it's still a long way from home. If you're starting out on this venture, you must, I certainly did, wonder how you're going to cope in these far away places. And this is the tiny island off a tiny island in a string of islands, and yet you always find people like this. There are always local people that can help. And I think one of the things that you have to remember if you're thinking about doing this is that we're on a boat, and that everywhere you go on a boat there are other people on boats, and they are local people, and they get problems with their engines as well.
Yes. This is so true.
There's a fishermen everywhere, and
So true, yeah.
they understand what you're going through, and one of them may not be able to do it, but they'll know someone who can, even in the remotest places. So it's good news.
Wanted to give him a shout. We should
Yes.
give Hendra a shout. You're going to
Yes.
see hopefully some more of Hendra in the up and coming episodes when we're based at Madana Bay Marina, because he was a mechanic who helped us out. And the third person I wanted to mention was Addy, the taxi driver.
Yeah, it's good.
And not just because he's a taxi driver, but it turns out that Addy has actually been watching our YouTube episodes for years.
He's a friend of mine on Facebook, I didn't even know.
Yes, he's been commenting, and we finally get to meet him in
Yes.
person.
What a lovely man.
Really, really nice guy. All of these people that we meet, they're bright, astute, they're switched on, and almost always their English is self-taught. And in fact, I think both Addy and Joe said
Yes.
that they hated learning English in the classroom. And it's only by interacting with yachties like us and other tourists that they've picked up their English. And I tell you what, you wouldn't know. I mean, they're sort of degree level English now.
Yes.
They know all the slang.
Perhaps wouldn't go that far, but yes, they're good. They're good. And we've mentioned 3 men, but I have to mention Ulva,
Yep.
who is our agent.
Another bright, switched on
She's a
person.
real cute cookie. She's very, very good, and we only managed to get her as our agent because it was through word of mouth that you get Ulva. And it was Brendan, our good mate Brendan, who's appeared quite a few times on our videos. Aussie guy, single sailor, but mainly a surfer. It was he that said he'd been using her as an agent and as a good friend for years and years and years, and he would ask if she would look after us, and she did. And then she said yes, and we finally met her, and what a lovely lady.
Another really bright, switched on local. Yeah.
So while we're in Indonesia, she is our point of reference for all things bureaucratic. Bleh.
It's funny actually that just thinking of Gile Gede, the island behind us, and local people, Gede is a real mix of local and a little spattering of tourism.
Yes.
And the more established tourist spots are run by foreigners and sort of half owned by foreigners.
Yes.
So you've got Ray, an Australian of Marina del Rey, and any yachty in this area will have heard of Marina del Rey. Then you've got Eain, the French guy.
So sorry, Ray is partner, is local, that's what you mean? Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
that's right. Eain, who's married to, she's actually from Sumatra, his wife, but he's French. Yeah. And then there's High Tide, is it called?
Yeah.
The sort of surf shack dive school.
Yeah, nice.
Another Aussie.
With an Indonesian partner.
Yeah.
Business partner.
Yeah.
Where else? On Asahan, on Gile Asahan, there's 3 little resorts there, and there's a famous place where you can get your Italian pizzas and whatnot. That's been there for years. They are all foreign owned, but with partners with local people.
Yes, they probably own 49% of the business.
I don't know how it works, but yeah, you can do that. But you can't own a business
without a
national.
Yes,
as a partner.
Right.
Yeah.
So it just adds to the colour of this place, I think.
Yeah, cosmopolitan side of it.
And we'll talk about Gede more when we do that little walk around, but I think Gede, the reason why I love it so much is because it's got that balance. It's got a little bit of tourism, and you can source certain products if you need them, through the marina or through Joe, but it's predominantly still a local fishing island, isn't
I would say so, yes. I mean, it's a series of very tiny hamlet-style villages. That's really what it's mainly, with the odd little resort. That's why it's nice. Yeah, so we love Gile Gede. That will be on our vlog, but not for a while yet. You'll see more of that. In the meantime, we will be here in Gile Gede, certainly till the weekend. A couple of things to do. And I think we should probably think about stopping soon.
Should we? Oh, I was just starting to wake up. My coffee's kicked in.
Oh, all right. Is there something else? Sorry, I only have a couple more things on my list, but go on.
No. Just a couple of things.
We didn't agree the time. Just go straight into this without thinking about it.
You'll notice in the video that just went out, I included some film photography.
Which one are you talking about for anyone who's
The one on Code Zero.
That doesn't... Oh, yes. Has that gone out? Yes, sorry.
Just
336.
Yeah, it's the latest episode.
Yeah.
And I managed to get hold of this 1980s waterproof, weather-sealed film camera. And I just experimented with it with a roll of Tri-X. For anyone that's into their film photography will know Tri-X. It's the best black and white film that you can buy. Anyway, we included some of those in our videos.
People loved them.
Yeah, so I'm going to make a point of trying to include more photography in the videos.
I think you should. Photography was your first love. That's how we started, writing and photographs, way before we did any video, really.
Yeah.
And it's still your first love, so I think it breaks up the videos quite nicely to see some stills. And stills can give you so much more. There's a creative, subjective side to filmed photographs that you just don't get with video, I think.
Yes.
What is it? It's atmosphere? Don't know.
Danny, one of our long FTB mates, actually, he made a very, very sort of poignant comment about how with the photography, you can't separate yourself from the observer. He was saying that it's a very subjective view that you're looking at when you capture one frame. You are seeing it through the eyes of the photographer, which he said was slightly different from video, where perhaps there's more going on and more to take in. I just thought it was a nice little comment. But what I really liked about those black and white photos was the atmosphere that they captured. And, it goes back to this whole, your photo should be sharp, should be in focus with level horizons and the rule of thirds and all that kind of stuff. And with film photography, it's kind of like a crapshoot. You don't know how it's going to come out. And some of those photos that came out, I was really, really pleased with.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And actually, I was just thinking while you were saying that, have you put them on our Patreon FTB Mate large photographic file?
I haven't, no.
I think you should make them available.
Yes.
Yeah, so that they can download the really big files, and then they can just print them out if they want to, because I think we sadly don't have any walls, but if we had a lovely big wall somewhere, you could print out like a series of 6 or something and frame them in a nice simple black frame. They would look fantastic if we do ever live on land, we'll do that.
Now, you mentioned giving them to our supporters.
Yeah.
That leads us nicely into Discord,
Yes.
which is a platform that we have been experimenting with, and we still kind of haven't properly officially launched it. It's been in a soft launch for a few months now.
You've been experimenting, and I've been dragged in kicking and screaming,
Yeah.
have to be honest.
We're still kind of working on it. But the thing with Discord is that it is so much easier for us to manage. So, for example, those photos you mentioned that we give to our patrons, our FTB mates, our supporters, our rum funders, all I have to do is upload it to Dropbox, and it automatically sends a thumbnail and the link to a private thread in Discord along with the download link. So just things like that are automated for us. The website, much as we love doing it, it's old technology.
It's a bit cumbersome and it works much better on the laptop. What we need is stuff that works directly from the phone, and it's the same with Patreon. Doing stuff it's not my favourite thing to do, so putting the weekly videos on is great, but anything else it's cumbersome, like the website. But Discord's brilliant.
And I think those of our supporters who think that perhaps we are not responding enough on something like Patreon, that is the reason why. It's because they are clunky to use on the phone, whereas Discord is so much easier. And we've opened up Discord to our YouTube viewers as well, so it's quite a few people come on board. So the way it works is that our supporters have their own private section where we upload things like photos, early viewings of videos, and also other extra videos that you don't see publicly. And again, that's so easy to do on Discord. But we also have a public area as well.
Yeah, we've done a great chat area, a scuttlebutt. You can talk about anything. Anyone can post anything. And we like to engage in some quite fun or thought-provoking topics that come from our fellow Discordians.
One of the things I wanted to do actually was to do the live broadcast of this podcast on Discord. Yeah. So that's something we could do as well.
Well, I think we definitely will be doing that. So then you'll get it live. If you want to watch it on Discord, you can. And then, that will probably just be for our supporters. Then it'll go onto YouTube, and then it'll be available to everyone. But if you want to watch it live, it'll be done through Discord. Is that right? Am I making this up?
No, you got that spot on. So we should just say this, the audio only podcast will go out to all the normal podcast channels, so Spotify, that one you use, Castbox, all of those channels, but it will also be on YouTube as well.
Yes, and it's on our website as well, remember?
Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that out fairly quickly, imminently. We're still casting off, still called Casting Off, but we're going to be casting off with Follow the Boat, sailing Follow the Boat.
With sailing Follow the Boat.
So it sounds a bit cumbersome, but the reason for doing that, in case anyone's wondering, is that for SEO, you have to put the word sailing in, otherwise you can't find us.
Yeah.
What does SEO stand for?
Search Engine Optimization.
God, how boring. But anyway, so it's casting off with sailing Follow the Boat. That's what we're called. And I think that's probably it for this week. But what I want to say now is that next week, we are starting to get our shit together. Next week we have a title. Well, we have a subject that we're going to discuss, and that's anxiety. This was brought about because of the journey from Toggins to here. Some of the anxiety that we went through, we slightly touched on in our videos, but not very much. But we're going to be brutally honest about how difficult sometimes it can be when you are on a boat with deadlines and things like that. Now, a lot of people think, you just live a life of perfection, you're constantly on holiday, it's all sunshine and rainbows. Well, it isn't, and it doesn't seem to matter what your situation is, you can get anxious, so we need to talk about that. And if you've got any thoughts on the subject, please put them in the comments below.
Yep, or tweet us if you're just listening. Then tweet us at Follow the Boat. And just really any kind of anxiety.
Hashtag anxiety.
Any kind of anxiety you may have. Whether you are a liveaboard yourself, I can guarantee if you're a liveaboard, you know exactly what we're talking about. but maybe you're a weekend sailor, maybe you're not even a sailor, not interested in sailing, or perhaps haven't got into sailing or being on a boat because you're anxious. So we'd love to hear from you and any stories that you may have as well, because we're really going to delve into this subject, and it is, as you say, going to be brutally honest.
Yeah, we're going to be honest. And I think I'm quite interested in how much of this has been brought about by the pandemic. You know, did it make people more anxious and depressed? Well, I think pretty much the answer has to be yes, from what one reads and hears about. Or was that always there? Was it always bubbling under and the pandemic just brought it out? Or perhaps people are better at expressing their feelings now about their anxiety and their depression or whatever it might be. Is it something that's always been bubbling under or not? What do you think? I don't know. Perhaps it has. I do think that the pandemic did quite a lot to damage people.
Yes, that's a known fact, I think, isn't it? It has been recorded.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen huge rises in anxiety and depression, and many other facets as well. But
and are we coming out of it now? That's the next thing.
Yes.
Is there a rainbow at the end of it all?
And are we coming out of it, as in us? Well, perhaps we'll find out next week. Is that it then?
I think that's it.
Are you going to wrap up? Or was that you wrapping up?
You can wrap up.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be back. We love doing these podcasts, and we've made it a lot easier with the one camera now, so hopefully we'll get these out nice and quickly. But perhaps most importantly, and we always say this and we genuinely mean it, is that we want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. We love reading your comments. We try to respond to every single one if we can within the first 24 hours, blah, blah, blah. So even though podcasts are kind of one way,
I think this might be the bit where I start fading you out.